So when we don't have the sense of natural innate wholeness, we're not really here. Our body's not working 100%. That's no fun. It's no fun. Okay.
Did you know, maybe, I don't know if I'm going to sound stupid, but do most people know that light is actually sound wave traveling so fast it creates light?
Well, I don't think most people know that.
Well, I read that in Paramahansa Yogananda's book, and he's very scientific.
Yeah, he was great. Yogananda was amazing.
That's where he enlightened me on light, saying that light is actually sound waves, traveling so fast that it creates. What you're seeing is not light; it's actually sound waves.
Everything is waves, photon waves, acoustic waves. Information travels in waves. Awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and yes, your nerves conduct acoustic waves. I know you do neurofeedback. We're measuring wave patterns and wave function. We're creating coherence and harmony, and in that state of harmony, regardless of the system we use, we can make massive changes, massive positive changes. Okay, so anybody have an idea what the circle and the C and the U mean? Any Joseph Campbell fans in the house? Any Joseph Campbell fans? Joseph Campbell fan? Okay, great. Cameraman is Joseph Campbell fan. Well, he was a great mythologist. He studied the power of myth and tradition. He's awesome. You can look up his YouTube videos. The guy was like the quintessential amazing professor. He did this incredible series with Bill Moyers, about the power of myth. It's amazing. If you ever have a chance to listen to it, it's unbelievable. I think it's all on YouTube for free. It's so awesome. So he had this great drawing, which I love because it's so applicable. So this right here, my friends, is you. This is your psyche. This is you. The C stands for conscious. Thank you. Good job. So that is what we are conscious of. I don't even know if I'm spelling that right. And that's what we're conscious of. That's kind of the surface layer of the ocean. That's the surface layer of the ocean. Now, for most of us, that doesn't go too deep. And the rest is what? What does U stand for? Unconscious. Unconscious. So this is what's there, but we're not aware of. We are unconscious of it. We are disconnected from it. So what I propose is that all of that overwhelming stress that we couldn't fully be with, that we didn't have the tools to become aware of or to work with, gets dumped in the unconscious. Now let's go a step back. Remember I said that Candace Pert said that the unconscious mind is really the spinal cord. It's really the nervous system and the spinal cord is sort of the dumping ground for the unconscious, unresolved material of a lifetime. Make sense? And so what happens is we all experience all kinds of stuff in life, which is completely overwhelming. And I think that the most powerful one that gets stored in the unconscious is rage. It's a sense of anger. This is the most dangerous emotion we could ever feel. And for a lot of us, the one we're just not willing to be with. Think about it. If you were hurt as a kid and you wanted to be like, you wanted to experience the anger fully, you wanted to experience the rage fully, you wanted to stand up for yourself, but it would mean that you would lose love, of course you're not going to do that. So we dump it. We push it down. We repress it. So this act of repression and suppression is a very powerful mechanism. But the problem is, when you throw something away, think about it for a moment. When you throw something away, where's away? Right? Where is away? You may know that there's a 2.5-mile spinning circle of plastic bottles in the North Pacific Ocean because that's away. There is no away. And in the human body, the unconscious is the body. And it's especially your spinal cord. So the fear, the pain, the rage, the grief, the anxiety, the abandonment. What happens is for a lot of people, when this system gets really filled up, it's gonna go somewhere. It's gonna explode somewhere. And I notice that it often explodes or comes out in symptoms. I think one of the most common is back pain, neck pain, headaches, digestive issues, insomnia, and skin issues. And for some people, in fact, I think for a lot of people, especially people who are wired to be highly perfectionistic, they're very good. They want to be so good. They want to be so good. They just want to get it all right. And they've had trauma in their life. This will often spill over into pain, especially back pain and neck pain and nerve pain. because that pain itself serves as a distraction away from the emotional pain underneath. I know that was a mouthful, but did you follow that? Oftentimes, physical pain is a ruse, it's a mirage, it's an illusion to get you to not have to be attentive to this. Make sense? Does that make sense to you, Carolyn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if we begin to deal with this, what happens to the pain? It goes away. And if it comes, you're like, oh, okay, it's telling me what's going on. I got some stuff coming up. This is not to say there's no structural causes for pain. There are. But in my estimation, it's about 10 to 15% of the time. If you ever want more information on this, I highly recommend Dr. John Sarno's work. Just working with this paradigm alone, he took people who were in significant musculoskeletal pain, and over a period of 1 to 2 years, had an 80% complete recovery rate of people just working on clearing out the emotional garbage and the emotional traumas that we carry. And these were people that diagnosed with herniated discs, spondylolisthesis, stenosis of the spine, bone spurs, etc., etc., etc. Get this, in an asymptomatic population, so in a group of people who have no symptoms whatsoever, they're happy as clams, they're eating tacos at Ruru's, they're just hanging out. I think it was 2,000 people. This was a couple issues back in the Spine Journal, really prominent journal of the spine. Over 80% of those people had bulges or herniated discs in their neck. Isn't that amazing? But they didn't feel any pain. And yet, if you have pain in your neck and in your arm and you go to an orthopedic surgeon, you're going to say, well, your pain is because of this herniated disc or this structural abnormality. But 80+% of the population has structural abnormalities, which to me means that these things are actually completely normal. As normal as gray hair, as normal as wrinkles. But what's not normal is that we then lose our capacity to adapt and to be well. We get locked into the stress physiology and stress posture, and pain goes through the roof. Either as in a response to the stress that hasn't resolved, as we talked about, there's 50 chemicals related to the stress response, or it becomes this mirage, it becomes this ruse. So the moral of the story is, what's your pain is not usually your pain. And I have worked with people, many in my life, who've had really screwed up spines from really screwed up accidents, and they have gotten very much out of pain. But their x-rays or their MRI might not change, but they change as people. I mean, it happens again and again and again. And I'll close tonight with a really special story from a guy who had severe spinal stenosis. The Keith story. I think you've heard the story. You've heard the story. I keep trying to come up with a better one, but that's my favorite. Yeah. So, and here's this cool thing. So the point then of life, if I may be so bold, the point then of, well, I wouldn't say the point, but one major part of our human journey is that this line keeps coming down. And in our life process, we keep becoming more and more conscious, more and more awake. This is illumination. This is enlightenment. Isn't it funny that these words all have to do with light? Illuminating, bringing light in, bringing light to the dark. The shadows can only persist so long as there's no light there, but as awareness expands at the level of mind, body, and spirit, amazing stuff can happen.
Like the waning of the moon.
Yeah, that's it. That's cool.
The revealing of
It is.
the light.
That's it. And that's so beautiful, and I love that. It's such a great metaphor. You know, and all the moon does in its fullness is reflect the light of the sun. So I love this phrase. We'll move quickly through this slide, but the body keeps the score. Your body keeps score. Your body keeps the score. Pain, whether it's muscle, nerve, or tendon, even things like frozen shoulder, bursitis, hip bursitis, impingement syndrome, I find that most of these have a stress-related component and a nervous system component. It was very fascinating. So I met someone recently who was diagnosed with having a spondylolisthesis, meaning one bone in her back slid in front of the other one. And she had really, really debilitating pain down both of her legs. So as I was talking to her and I was taking her history, I was very curious about how long she'd actually had the spondylolisthesis. She says, well, I have no idea. I said, well, when did the pain start? She said, well, it kind of started 2 years ago, but it got really intense over the last few months. And the doctor wants to do a spinal fusion. So, and she takes a fair amount of painkillers. And I was like, it's very curious, because generally speaking, spondylolisthesis, this strange abnormality in the spine, it usually happens in childhood. I said, were you a gymnast, or did you play intense sports? She goes, yeah, I totally played gymnastics, and I played soccer. I was like, you know, for me, from my perspective, looking at your MRIs and x-rays, there's no way you're a surgical candidate. You have pain going down both legs, but you have nothing touching nerve at all. You have a very mild spondylolisthesis that I think has probably been there since you were a kid. So tell me about the last 2 years. And as she described the last 2 years, I mean, it was one massive toxic stressor after another. Massive, massive. And so what had happened, my perspective, of course, I'm not the preacher of the gospel here, but from my perspective, and based on my testing and my analysis, it was this whole mind-body confluence of stress that was manifesting this pain. So, and I find this to be very common. So this overload response, where the body keeps score, will show up as pain, poor posture, poor digestion, anxiety, depression, immune problems, so either too much immune function, autoimmunity, getting sick all the time, skin problems, cardiovascular, we can't focus, we can't sleep. This is the result of the body keeping the score. But the body has also kept score of the most important thing that's ever happened to you, which is that you were born with this amazing, beautiful, self-regulating, self-healing nervous system. And that's the key. So if you get nothing else out of that, you just come back to that singular truth all the time. And if I work with someone and I sense that their issue is not, you know, a surgically required herniated disc, but they can go through my whole program, and there's even people in this room that can attest to this, their whole lives change, how they deal with pain, how they deal with stress changes. So that's cool. And less chemical stressors from medication. And if you want to know a good stressor, surgery is a really good one. So let me pause there. We're doing great. Any questions? Any observations? Any ahas?